Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the
Morning.
Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl, and I'm here with all my good friends. And today we are continuing our discussion of sacred contracts. Woo-hoo. Okay, we're in chapter 1, and we are on page 16 if you're in the hard copy. If you're not in the hard copy, look for the section titled Sacred Contracts and Your Divine Potential. But before we get going with the reading, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Catherine, you can take it from there.
Hey, good morning. It's Jason from Tampa Bay.
Dan
Good morning,
Sissick
Lori
in
Emmons.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
And Lori Emmons in Denver.
Kenji and Gora, Maine. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Catherine Clement, and we're starting at Sacred Contracts and Your Divine Potential. On the day the mythic light bulb went off in my head and I saw that archetypes are part of a person's spiritual chronology, I also realized that they are so ancient that they must predate our physical birth. Our archetypal inheritance is prehistoric, primal. It comes from our own energy origins in the divine, which is also the source of our sacred contract, the guided plan for our life. We co-create our contract with divine guidance, and it includes many individual agreements or subcontracts to meet and work with certain people in certain places at certain times. For that reason, I will be using the plural contracts interchangeably with agreements throughout this book. Both terms represent the earthly commitments, the tasks you have been assigned, and the lessons you agreed to learn in this incarnation in order to fulfill your divine potential. The experiences and relationships you are meant to have are with your parents, children, close friends, and any people with whom you share a passion for something. These people, as well as your adversaries, are in your life because you made an agreement with them prior to this lifetime to support each other's spiritual growth. Indeed, every relationship and experience is an opportunity for you to grow and transform your life. Some relationships may even offer multiple opportunities. In every one, you will have to choose how to exercise your own power. As I stress in all my work, choice is your greatest power. It is an even greater power than love because you must first choose to be a loving person. For example, take the simple matter of someone apologizing to you for having spoken thoughtlessly or hurtfully. In that one instant, the power of transformation rests entirely with you. You can transcend the density of your anger and choose to forgive, transmuting that instant into an exchange that restores energy to both of you. Or you can repress your divine nature and cause that potential opportunity for healing to become a contaminated energy transaction. Choosing to act in accordance with your divine potential consolidates the power of your many faces, your inner and outer worlds. Your divine potential can often be heard speaking to you through your conscious, which lets you know when you have acted inappropriately. We all have felt the heavy, gut-wrenching sensation of guilt when we have judged another, broken our word, or passed up an opportunity that came our way. If you look closely at this feeling, you can sense that it is the result of repressing or acting against your divine potential. Conversely, you can also recognize the feeling of cellular harmony and health that comes from acting with love, compassion, generosity, and friendship. Acting through your intuition, your divine potential always alerts you to look alive when you are in the midst of a choice point, a significant contract moment, or a recognition of someone with whom you have an agreement. Because each contractual relationship in your life is carrying a fragment of your spirit, just as you carry a fragment of other spirits, when you feel strong energy responses to a person or place or in a situation, it is because you have come upon a part of your spirit that lives outside of your being. The atmosphere around you and within you becomes heightened. Your emotions and pulse race more rapidly, and your reasoning either becomes clearer or heads into a fog bank. Your body transmits noticeable physiological responses. As I tell the people in my workshops, if you were to stop in the midst of these types of responses and immediately read your surroundings, symbolically, you would interpret the events or relationships occurring in that moment from an entirely different plane of reality. You would notice your inner warrior emerging, for example, in the form of your temper. Or you would sense the lover filling your senses as you merge with the seductive tranquility of an evening sunset. Your divine potential also speaks to you through your dreams. It is a desire to get more out of life, but not just accomplishments or material gain, although these things can sometimes manifest as part of fulfilling your potential. Your divine potential is the fullest expression of your spirit. It is discovering the depths of your capacity to create and to express love, compassion, forgiveness, generosity, and wisdom. Your divine potential becomes more audible as you release your need to know why things happen as they do. It becomes more perceptible as you decide to look beyond the physical plane of life, past what the Hindus and Buddhists called Maya, or illusions. Never revealing its full measure at once, your potential motivates you to discover the greater purpose and meaning of your life. You are not born knowing how great an artist or how powerful a healer or how stalwart a friend you could be in this lifetime. You are not born knowing how deeply you can love and care for another. You have to learn to act with courage, self-confidence, and faith. These are potentials you need to discover within yourself. These are spiritual qualities that must be earned. Like heroes in a mythic journey, we are meant to struggle to make the right choices. Our divine potential calls us to rise above the self's basic needs for survival in the physical world. We're called to grow beyond ourselves, but we can't grow spiritually only by using our intellect. Divine order and divine logic are different from earthly logic and reason, and cannot always be perceived by our minds. Think of the many scriptural stories or myths in which the divine revealed itself in full. When the Lord appeared on Mount Sinai, he told Moses to warn the people not to look on him or they would perish. St. Paul was thrown from his full horse and temporarily struck blind by a vision of the risen Christ. The elephant-headed Hindu deity Ganesha's human head was burned to cinders when his mother, Parvati, invited the god Shani to look at him, forgetting in her pride the destructive power of Shani's gaze. These accounts indicate the deeper truth that divine consciousness is not easily apprehended by our human faculties. This is where your archetypes can help you to fulfill your divine potential and even to resolve the many issues of daily life, like power plays at the office or the healing of past injuries. You must enlist a higher plane of consciousness. You must get beyond reason to where you can see and understand the symbolic or greater meaning of the experiences. Your archetypes are your guides into this realm of symbolic perspective. Your quest for meaning is in itself a form of spiritual practice. Questions such as, why have I been born? And how do I find the voice of God within me? Are in fact spiritual invocations, prayers that are answered not in words, but through experience. These questions activate your divine potential, energize your archetypes, and compel you to complete your agreements or contracts with other people. To be able to see symbolically, to act appropriately on your intuitions takes practice, and the purpose of this book is to help you develop these skills. I cannot think of a more valuable contribution that you can make to your spiritual health than learning to understand your sacred contract as it is written in your own archetypal language. By learning to identify your energy patterns, you will be able to gain a much greater vision of the meaning and purpose of your many experiences and relationships. When you can symbolically read the content of your life, you can make dramatically better choices. When your life's plans are suddenly interrupted, you can choose to view that event as a contract intervention rather than as a crisis. What symbolic vision gives you above all is choice. The choice to see events as arbitrary and antagonistic or as blessings that are part of a plan in which you have some say. Symbolic vision helps you understand the daily questions that arise for you, as well as the spiritual unfoldment of your life. Balancing fate and free choice in your sacred contract. In other cultures and at other times, people have envisioned their sacred contract as the action of fate, the grace of God, or the accumulated karma of past deeds. Fatalism about life and love leads some to say, for example, it was just his time, or they were meant for each other, or it was the work she was born to do. Modern scientific culture tries to attribute such events to genetic predisposition, to cause and effect, or to chance. Eastern cultures, which have studied the interior processes of the psyche and spirit longer and more intensively than the West, have evolved a belief in a continuum of lifetimes rather than a single life, followed by eternal reward or punishment. According to the laws of karma, just as your actions in this life plant seeds that ripen and bear fruit in future lives, so your current lifetime reflects your past deeds. Although the Eastern system of karma and reincarnation is considered to be overseen by gods or a greater energy, our rewards and punishments and the rate at which we evolve spiritually are all based almost entirely on our own efforts. The West has tended to favor a mixture of fatalism and divine order. Greek and Nordic mythology paid homage to the three fates who spin, weave, and cut the thread of life. Ancient Mediterranean and Middle Eastern societies relied on soothsayers, oracles, and astrologers to help them discern the course of their lives as already determined or written in the stars. The Western monotheistic traditions that arose in the Middle East assigned much power to the role of God in determining our destinies, while still placing a large burden on individuals to follow God's laws or reap the consequences. The Protestant doctrine of predestination, preached by John Calvin and others in the 16th century, however, tipped the balance entirely in God's favor. According to their beliefs, our purpose in life is to fulfill the duties and responsibilities that God has assigned us. But because human nature is essentially corrupt, we cannot achieve salvation, the reward of heaven, except by the grace of God. Moreover, to the Calvinists, God has predestined certain people to receive that grace and not others, leaving us dependent on a kind of luck controlled by the divine, which has already decided our fate. Acting morally is all but reduced to a form of hoping that one is already among the elect. To help you share in my own vision of sacred contracts, I use comparisons from both Eastern and Western beliefs about the relative roles of fate, free will, and divine will. Yet, I believe that we have a deeply intimate relationship with the divine and a very impersonal relationship with cosmic order. The laws of the universe the laws of the universe, such as cause and effect and magnetic attraction, apply equally to all. The orbiting of the planets and the timing of the tides take care of themselves, and I do not have to think about them. We actually embody the laws of the universe whenever we exercise our power of choice. I make a choice, and it has a consequence, regardless of who I am. Yet, I can influence the quality of that consequence if I am mindful in my intention. This fact that we can determine our own motivations reflects our intimate connection with the divine. My intentions do not change the laws because all my choices will still have consequences. But if my motivations are compassionate and sincere, the consequences are more likely to be positive, and a single action can result in an inestimable, gosh, I can't read today, cascade of physical, emotional, and spiritual effects. As part of our intimate relationship with the divine, it prods us to learn lessons and work on our spiritual growth in ways that we may consciously resist at times. That may sound like a contradiction. If we have co-created our contract with the divine, why would we resist or ignore it? We do, because before we're born, we forget the particulars of our agreements. We have to remember our purpose by taking action and searching for it. This is not as difficult as it may sound, because when you are living in accord with your contract, you usually know you're on the right path. We all slip off the right path at one point or another. However, perhaps when we are trying to take the path of least resistance, as the nuns who taught me used to say, ironically, what seems to be the path of least resistance can be the more arduous in the long run if you are acting against your contract. Ultimately, we make choices every day, consciously and unconsciously, that implement the terms of our contract, keeping us on the path or getting us back on the path. We can also choose to enlist the aid of archetypes, spirit guides, and even the grace of God through prayer and meditation to attempt to fulfill our agreements more expeditiously. If you do not choose to believe in a literal pre-birth contract or in reincarnation, or even in the power of grace, you might want to view your life metaphorically as a journey you have agreed to take. In past life regression therapy, for instance, patients are invited under hypnosis to re-enter the events of previous existences. Yet the leading proponents of this method have shown that the vivid stories people uncover about themselves during regression do not need to be viewed as literal events in order to be emotionally beneficial, but can be seen symbolically. People who, quote, remember past life wounds, beliefs, revelations, and family histories invariably feel that they have gained from the insights these memories provide into their own unconscious and their life situation. You can also think of your sacred contract as your own unique contribution to life around you that arises from your particular set of circumstances, relationships, and family. Whatever interpretation you choose, the extent to which you can decode your contract will depend on your willingness to accept that everything we do is for a purpose far greater than we will ever know. That every deed you do affects your life and others for good or ill. As Thich Nhat Hanh teaches, we enter our to believe in an invisible order, a divine or implicate order, as quantum physics calls it, or the order beneath the disorder that chaos theory describes, is a healthier, more interesting choice than seeing no meaning in life whatsoever. Discovering and working with your archetypes and other elements of your contract will change your view of your own destiny. You will bring new meaning to your life and move from seeing it as random and haphazard to accepting that it is carefully planned and directed with you as an active participant. All right, that's it.
All right,
I need
thank
to
you.
get glasses. I've got my phone like 2 inches from my eyes trying to read this.
Oh, goodness. Well, you're doing great. Thank you for reading.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
Absolutely.
there was a lot in there, wasn't there? That was a lot in just
He-
those two little sections. I was just thinking about all the correlations between the different religious beliefs that she was suggesting, or spiritual versus religious or whatever, all the different ones, and how they all seem to have this kind of underlying theme that there is some divine purpose for all of us. And then here at the end, she talks about, whether you want to believe it or not, it's healthier to believe something than to believe that there's no meaning. And I'm like, so whether it's true or not is irrelevant. It's whether or not we want to be healthy and have some meaning in our lives. We have to give ourselves meaning, whatever that means. So that's I don't know, that's kind of what I gathered from that last statement. And I don't know, what do you guys think about everything you read so far?
There was one part, and I can't remember the full little section, but something about something point, or I want to say grace points, but I don't think it was grace points, but that kind of hit me, but I can't remember the full, because I got hung up on that little part and was thinking about it, but it just kind of hit me, and I've never looked at it, but I can't remember the exact wording or what, so I can even put my thought back into context. So I'll have to probably re-listen to this at some point, but it would be nice to be able to remember if in fact we did make agreements before coming here, because maybe that might help me understand some of all the things I've gone through and all the ups and downs in life that I've gone through, that, you know,
Mhm.
I'm sure there's meanings and understand, and things behind it, and I'm trying to figure it out, but
Mm.
I know that's part of the journey, but at the same point, I'm tired of the journey because I've gone around and around on this a couple times, and I'm not figuring it out, I guess.
Yeah, there was
Well,
oh, go ahead, Catherine.
well, I was just going to say, you guys have heard this from me before. The only reason, well, not the only, but the biggest reason that I believe in sacred contracts or whatever you want to call it, pre-designed life experiences. The reason I believe that is because I do believe from personal experience that God is love. I mean, I have felt love beyond description,
Mm.
and I believe that to be God. And therefore, I cannot believe that God, a true loving God, would send people anywhere to any planet to suffer the way we do on planet Earth. That's why I believe that we agreed to it before we came, because we have free will, or at least we think we do, and we're told we do. And I don't think that God would force punishment and suffering upon us against our will if we had not agreed to it ahead of time. And that's not, a great reason to believe it, but
Uh,
that's why I believe it.
sounds perfectly acceptable to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
I don't know. There's a lot in that in your reading, and thank you again for reading. There's so much to that it's almost seemed like the author was sort of skipping around to different things, but I guess she was they were pointing out examples of different types of thought in regards to this. Um, but for me, it um, just sort of made it more difficult to try to pin things down or to figure it out, because I kind of come back to the idea. I don't know if you were saying this, Samantha, but that we sort of give ourselves our own meaning, or bring meaning to our lives. Um, I mean, in the absence of knowing what sacred contract we might have agreed to,
Hmm.
or having a definite, strong feeling of purpose in
Hmm.
one aspect, I guess, is believing that we we give ourselves and our own life its own meaning any better than not believing that there is any reason or or believing that there is a reason and purpose that's that we've just forgotten. I don't know. Like,
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that that concept right there, just that idea of believing something is better than believing nothing. Because I mean, if you believe nothing, then life has no meaning, right? You know, I mean, what's the point of doing this or what's the point of doing that if it doesn't matter? But yet, if you believe that it has some purpose, whether we remember what it is or not, it's still it it gives you a point, right? You know, because if there's no meaning, there's no point. But if there is meaning, there is a point. I mean, it's as simple as that, like black and white, you know, yin and yang. It's just uh and then that's an interesting concept there. But the section in here it talks about let's see. If we have created our contract with the divine, why would we resist or ignore it? And then she says it's because we forget the particulars of our agreement. And we have to remember our purpose by taking action and searching for it. And then it says when you are living in accord with your contract, you usually know you're on the right path. What and so I suppose that that kind of is like, you know, when we're giving our life meaning and we're happy about what we're doing, then that is that kind of alignment with the sacred, or alignment with the contract, or alignment with spirituality, or whatever what we're doing and enjoying life in general, then that's being in alignment. You know, I mean, I used to have this idea when I was younger, because, you know, I was raised in a Christian school and it was all about, you know, do what God says and trust in God, et cetera, et cetera. And then I would be resistant against all of that. And yet then I would also experience these times where I felt like I was following the path and everything was easy and it felt good and it was, you know, so it's like, why do we do this to ourselves? When we struggle, when we resist things, we cause ourselves that discomfort, whatever it is. And when we just kind of go with the flow and we follow what feels good, then we're feeling good. You know, I don't know. It's a funny thing. But she mentioned another part in there. I think I underlined it, but it was something about like when some kind of thing happens that seems like it's that's what it was that she said. Something about, okay, when your life plans are suddenly interrupted, you can choose to view that event as a contract intervention rather than as a crisis. And And like you know, I can recognize that. Like if you're having a really stressful week and you're tired and everything seems like it's going the wrong way, and then you get stuck in traffic on the way to work and you're like in a hurry and blah, 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 you know, it's kind of like that divine intervention. It's like, okay, you need to slow down, you need to just take a chill pill and not take everything so seriously. Just, you know, sit here and be stuck in traffic and be happy about it or whatever. When we resist it, then we're all angry and get more angry. And yet, if we just relax and enjoy that we have no choice moment to chill, then we have a positive experience with it. So I don't know. It was just a thought.
It's when you get delayed like that, it could be the spirit guides or archetypes, whatever it is, protecting you from some unforeseen accident in front of you.
Oh, maybe.
Well, I'm gonna go from just an experience that just happened to me recently. A couple weeks ago, I had an accident, which was definitely an interruption in my life. And overall, thank God my car was not majorly, and thank God, but it created a lot of stress and and to me that was not something I wanted, not something I needed, not something I even remotely wanted to be involved in my life. And I don't think it actually made life harder, because then, after having some work done on my car just last month that my brother paid for, and all the other stuff, it just added on top to the last 6 to 8 months worth of stuff that I've been going through. And it's really,
Mm-hmm.
it's pushed my limits in some areas and in some ways. And it's almost like I don't understand. I'm not fully understanding what it's trying to show me or give me, or all I know is it's really just convoluted and totally interrupted my life, and you know turned it upside down. And I'm still trying to fight my way back out of it, and I'm not finding a whole lot of direction in any way, shape, or form, except to just keep moving forward. But I'm I'm missing that part of it, that of and if it's because I'm so far out of whack from what my agreements are, maybe it to me it does not make sense anywhere in along this, when the way I was headed, things were going, and I don't know why. It does not feel like it's the right path. So in that sense, but yet, how am I to know if my agreements, if I don't remember my agreements, well, maybe it really is part of the way of to make me go a different path. I don't know. That's what's kind of driving me up.
We know that's kind of the thing, is that, and that thread that you were speaking of, Samantha, is that, we as humans, we try to put meaning to everything.
I was just
Well,
trying to
yeah.
look for this one section that kind of when you were talking, Dan, it reminded me of this part, and it was talking about our divine potential calls us to rise above the self's basic needs for survival in the physical world. And I feel like that is one of our biggest struggles as humans, is that contradiction between, okay, we have to survive, we have to pay our bills, we have to, we have to eat, all of those things. And yet then we'll have these kind of underlying things that are like trying to call us to be something else or do something else or experience something else. And yet we keep pulling ourselves back in this like resistance. Well, I can't, because I have to do this in order to pay my bills. I have to do this in order to, survive in this world, because I have this and I have that and I have that and I have to take care of all these things. And yet then there's the underlying part that's saying, this is, I'm trying to put you in the place you need to go. I don't know. It's funny because I mean, we've lived in so many different places and been in so many different situations, and no matter what the situation is, we all manage to survive in one way or another. And I'm kind of reminded back to uh, a point in my life where we were just like, you know what, screw it. I'm tired of what's going on right now, and I just want to go a completely different path, and so we just stopped doing what we were doing and then did something different. And that was like a huge amount of turmoil and a major amount of change in our lives and our family and all of that. But at the same time, I was sitting there thinking, we've been through all these life challenges up to now, and we've survived. We've managed to have food. We've managed to have a roof over our head. We've managed to get by in one way or another. And if we can do it in all these situations, why wouldn't we be able to do it in a situation where we're following our bliss, if you will? And so that's where I'm like, I think we get it mixed up sometimes, is we think that we have to take care of all the earthly responsibilities in order to survive, and yet maybe it's the other way around. We need to just focus on our spiritual growth, or focus on our whatever it is that is the driving thing on our spiritual side versus our driving thing on the human side.
It seems like it's sort of a the that it seems that the challenges that we face are and the actions we take to overcome them is all to create space for that, for the ability to maybe investigate our spirituality or expand in some other way. But what is the path? What is the way of the path or to the path? Is the path a path of flow, or is the path the true path for us? Should it be that we're always in the flow, or is it that we're always in struggle, or is
Or
the balance there?
Hopefully not.
I mean,
or are we
there
the
isn't a
boulder
choice.
in the stream that causes the water to flow different pattern?
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think the
one
hard
part stood out.
Well,
Go ahead, Dan.
oh, I was gonna throw out, and I think Catherine wanted to say something too, but I was gonna throw out, and sorry, I'm gonna quote something from the Bible that kind of speaks to what we're just talking about a little bit. But for me, maybe this is where what I'm actually looking for and the way I can put it out there. But it's a verse in the Bible from Matthew. What chapter is it? I think 6. Yeah, 6. And it says, now I got to find it again. Oh, yeah. It's talking about worry, or like the things like kind of like what it says in Matthew 6:25. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Or, God, universe, how you look at it. Um, are we as humans not much more valuable than they? Can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to our life? And I think that's a lot of what we do in going back and looking at maybe like this sacred contract aspect. And then it goes on, and why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field, they do not labor or spin. But yet, basically, the idea is that, you know, everything will be provided for us, as I think if we trust and believe, and maybe going back to what she was saying, lean into that feeling that this is part of my contract and I shouldn't worry because everything will be provided and taken care of. Going back to what Samantha was saying, they totally switched and changed and went from where they were, and why were they, kind of like beating themselves up over it? Because they've always been able to provide for what they needed and stuff. It may not have been the easiest, but somehow and maybe that's part of what the part I'm trying to bring back into focus so I can deal with this interruption that I've dealt with over the last 6 to 8 months. And maybe that's more how I need to look at it and trust and believe that the divine, God, the universe, all that really does have it all in hand. And this is all part of my agreement, for lack of a better way of saying.
And when you read that passage, and that was one that, I'd read off and on many times in my younger years. It was probably one of the ones we even memorized. And what's interesting about those types of passages is it has this kind of resonating feeling with it of, gosh, wouldn't that just be great to have someone else just taking care of me where I don't have to worry about it and I don't have to stress so much. And it's like that, just kind of like the mother taking care of, the parents. When you're a kid, you're just free and you don't really have any worries. I mean, obviously there's always crap that happens in our lives that can stress us out, but in the grand scheme of things, as a child, for the most part, we are taken care of, right? And that feels like a safe space, and it feels it's like, right, as adults, we feel like we have the weight of the world and the weight of our families and the weight of our careers and our all the responsibilities that we have taken on purposely. We've chosen these responsibilities, and then we feel this huge burden of them. And yet at the same time, that those passages like what you just read, Dan, are kind of like, you don't have to do all that. You're making it harder than it needs to be, and I feel like that is kind of the message, is that we we do this we do this discomfort to ourselves, right? It's like in the previous book, it talks about hunting discomfort, make it more uncomfortable, and then this book, it's talking about letting go of, well, I mean, I don't know about the whole book as a whole, but certain parts of it is making me feel like, okay, we got to let go of some of this crap that we think we need to do, or shoulda, woulda, couldas, or all of that, and follow this underlying, whether we call it a sacred contract or whether we just follow whatever purpose it is that we think we came here to do. And when we're in resistance, it's we're resisting that, or we're saying, oh, we can't do it because of some thing that we've put on ourselves.
Well, that passage about the birds, heard different versions of that, and basically that, the birds, they don't want for nothing, for anything, and they, kind of have an easy life. But being a bird watcher from early years, they have a really tough life. Birds have a really tough life, and they are constantly worried about getting killed and eaten by something else. And they have no hands, and they have to peck at everything. They don't. The only thing they got going for them is they can fly, but
That's pretty
even
good.
that, it's dangerous. Um, you know, it's I just think that I get the meaning that is behind the passage, but I think that that the dangers that they have to go through. If you've ever seen a dove on the ground get pounced on by an osprey or a hawk or something, you don't
Listen,
you know, you just it's I mean the animal world is a tough place. And you know, though we have a great place in the overall scheme of things. So um, I'm just wanted to say that one thing about the birds thing. But the purpose thing, part of it, a purpose to our life, purpose to the moment, purpose the to the struggle, or to the a moment of clarity and enjoyment. Um, I mean, these are all we can think of like, well, what is the purpose and the meaning of things? But isn't it kind of true that it really depends on what time period you're thinking of? Um,
Yes, it's always been about survival of the fittest. And maybe you're a good scavenger and can find enough seeds or berries or whatever it is to make it fit for you.
yeah, kind of like uh, finding your own way, finding your own path, figuring out the meaning to it, I guess, giving meaning to it. I, I've I to me it seems a lot like uh, there we get put on a path through our will, our faith, our you know what we want to do for the day or for the week or whatever in our schedule, and then we end up having to we come up there, you know, challenges arise, distractions arise, um, and it's sort of, you know, how do we handle those? Um, I see that if if there is some, you know, divine or spiritual intervention, it seems that can only really be through the things that are within our environment. Um,
Hmm.
and so perhaps we have to move forward enough to where the things that you know the divine needs in order to help us further is actually in our environment. Um, I mean, I've kind of gone less away, you know, less from thinking about the meaning of things uh, as in trying to find the kind of silver lining in things, in that what is an opportunity, you know, if you get stuck in traffic, like you said, and you're having one of those days, how can you use that time to kind of reset your mind? Or if you're at an appointment and it goes longer than expected, perhaps there's someone there that you could meet and create a new friendship, a relationship with, or
mhm,
um, you know, maybe there's something you can garner, I guess, garner or find within the moment
mhm.
to not necessarily give it meaning, but to just that there's a hidden opportunity within that. Anyway,
I think our biggest problem is that, I mean, our bodies are human. We are not human. And I think making that distinction can make a huge difference in how you weather a storm, so to speak. Because if you have the ability to pull back and look at it from a spirit point of view without emotion, which is what all of my guides that I work with, everybody on the other side that I work with, the only time I feel emotion from the spirit world is when I'm doing mediumship and I'm pulling through a loved one for somebody else. And then I will feel the emotions between those two. But otherwise, if I have a guide that, you know, gives me a message or whatever, it is completely unemotional. Like it's hard to believe that so much love could come from a space where it feels unemotional, but it's not, because it's love. And I don't know if that made any sense, but the point is, the point is that, well, I'll just say it this way. The only reason I haven't taken my life by now in this life is because, for one thing, I know I'm eternal and I'm just going to be somewhere else. It's not like I can just end everything. Nobody can end everything, even if they take their life. You just go to the next experience. And that experience may be worse than the one I'm in now. I read the damn Midnight Library, you guys.
Yeah.
I know what's up. So that, I mean, that may not be a good reason, but that is the reason. Or two reasons. One, I know I'm going to wind up somewhere else. And two, I don't believe that um, if I'm still here, I believe that's because there are still things to learn here, obviously. And, it's tough to walk with a foot in both worlds because it's one thing to believe that you can change things with your will almost, and then be in situations where you cannot change things. And even in those times, I don't know how people that don't have faith make it. I don't, like, I couldn't. If I didn't have the faith
I
that I
agree.
have, I just wouldn't have made it in this world very long. I just wouldn't have. So,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking about the unemotional from the other side and and us being humans and as emotional, our spiritual being versus our human self, and our human self is in this emotional roller coaster. And I feel like when majorly whatever things happen that seem like just so intense that that spiritual side of myself just kind of like becomes this observer, if you will, and is like kind of like what you said, Catherine, not necessarily emotional, but more of a feeling of, oh, isn't that interesting? you know and when I can go and I can be in that place, then everything doesn't seem so intense, if you will. And I but I'm like right there with you. And when you talk about, if I'm not in this life, obviously I'm going to be in some other life that could be even more intense than this one, or even more, who knows what. And so I can definitely resonate with that thought process of, and for me, it's like, either A, if I'm not here, I'm going to be somewhere else, and who knows what that will be. And also the idea of causing the rest of my people a lot of discomfort, or a lot of pain and suffering because of the lack of me. Not that I'm so amazing. I mean, I'm amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I don't mean it in terms of like, you can't live without me. It's not that. It's that whole, I don't want to cause them pain. I don't want to, I don't want to upheave their lives. And so I feel like I'm still here. I have these sometimes thought processes when I'm going to sleep that I'm like, maybe I'm just going to be done. Maybe this is just the end today. I'm just going to go to sleep and not wake back up again. And then I'm like, I catch myself in those moments going, no, 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 no. We still have things we have to do or people to take care of or stuff. Da, 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 da. You can't end it here, as if it's a switch. It's a weird thing. Like, I think there's a switch. I can just turn it off. I don't know. Do you ever get that, Catherine? Like, you could just be like, oh, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow. And like that's the thing you could do. Like, I don't know. I'm almost afraid of it. You
Yeah.
know what
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. But we are at the top of the hour, guys. We need to wrap up our final thoughts and go on.
I was gonna throw out, now after what Catherine just said and you just said about, because yeah, I get the feeling of that pure love. I've felt that before too from God, and in that, and I can't describe it anything more than I think kind of how you said it, Catherine. It's just, but it's pure. It's pure. I know that. But I was thinking a little bit more, maybe on this side, the emotions that we have here are part of what is needed for in this realm. I'll put it in this realm because I believe that there are other planes and that there's other existences outside what we physically that for most people can't really get to or don't have a sense of. I believe through my relationship with God, I've experienced a little bit of it, but probably not even to the extent like what Catherine had. But I think on the other side, because I think there's still emotion on the other side, but I think it's in the purest form and in a way that I think if we were to fully experience it, except with love, the love part of it, I don't think we could handle it for the first part. I think it would just totally flood and take over and be more than what we could really. I don't. That's the best way I can explain it. But for me, just my faith, going back to some of you guys have said, my faith is what does keep me together. And I have gone to bed at night thinking, it would be nice to not wake up tomorrow. Just go pass on in my sleep and not wake up. I don't really think of a switch because I'm not really sure that. But then in the morning I wake up and then it's like, okay, I'm awake, I'm here, I have another day to go through, and I go through my day. So but I have really had that thought where or a couple times I told people that sometimes I feel, and I don't think I can use the word happy, but it's the best way. I'm happiest when I'm asleep because I'm not thinking about anything. I'm not fighting with anything. I'm not going over things that are happening or all the issues and trials of life and everything. I'm just in sleep
So how does that
and whatever
account
I
for
dream, if I
nightmares?
dream of.
So how does that
Well,
account
no,
for
like I said,
nightmares? How can you be happy?
I don't really have nightmares. I haven't had nightmares for years, except for the about 12,
Just saying in
14 years
general.
ago when I know, but no, I'm more talking about where I am in my life now. When I was younger, I had nightmares and stuff, but where I am now, I don't even really even really dream, or if I dream, they're not so I'm just so gone, you know, that, but I feel like I'm in the best places when I'm asleep. It's weird to say it that way, but that.
No, I get it, Dan. I do. It is. It's just like a place where you just don't have to think about anything. You're not worried about this, not worried about that. You're not trying to figure
Maybe
things
that's why I
out.
like to,
Yeah. You just go to
maybe that's
sleep.
why I sleep so much.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah. And as far as like the nightmares aspect of it, I don't really have nightmares anymore either. I mean, I occasionally will have an emotional stress dream, you know, but usually it's a reaction to something that's happened in my life recently or something I'm, you know, frustrated with or whatever. But no, I wonder if Catherine, did you jump into the wrong Zoom, Catherine? Oops.
No, the other was canceled.
Oh, okay. Well, we're still here.
Yeah, I just came back.
Yay.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah.
There was one part in the book where it said the voice of the divine potential, of your divine potential, gets louder as we release the need to know why, the why of everything, or
Mm.
something like that. So like the path to the least resistance is just not to resist, kind of.
That's certainly the path to sanity.
uh,
Mm.
you mentioned Catherine in the chat before you jumped off before, like watching the 3-year-old meltdown, and then we're like, it's okay, you know. And it's funny because my granddaughter, just the other day, she's so emotional and she has a lot of worries. But what was funny, and I felt for her seriously, I just had this really strong, gosh, you know, you're okay. But she put on these socks. She's in softball and they got new uniforms and they got these socks, these knee-high socks. And she put these socks on and she put her pants on. And then the socks were so tight, or she thought they were so tight. And she literally had like a complete meltdown because the socks were so tight on her and they were hurting her. And she couldn't even talk. She was crying so much. And I'm like, oh my God, child, what's wrong? What's wrong? You know, I thought she'd like, I don't know. I thought there was like a needle in her pants or something poking her. And she just like barely getting the words out. Socks hurt, you know, whatever. And I'm like, good, just take them off. Just take them off, baby. You know, I'm just like, just take it. You're okay. You're okay. You know, and it was just, I felt for her, but at the same time, it's like you know, I'm like, good Lord, just take it off, right? And so I wonder sometimes, you know, if God's looking down on us, going, Jesus, just take it off. You know, quit torturing yourself. Just let it go. Quit
Stop
freaking
doing
out.
that.
Hey, you know, I don't know. Mm.
Mm.
Poor baby.
Right. I think sometimes there's something we want out of life, or something, you know, we desire to have or do, and we do get kind of fixated on there's only one way to get there. And you know, it seems like, well, if I'm gonna do it, I got to do it this way. Whereas if you're gonna say, well, the another way of looking at it is, or the other side of the coin is, well, if it's gonna happen, the opportunity will arise. You know, um, and and I don't know that either one is is wrong. Um, but perhaps there are multiple options on either way you look at it, like you said.
My dad loved the phrase, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And then all I can think is, why are you skinning cats?
mm,
Yeah, I feel like we get stuck in that kind of mindset of it has to be a certain way, and if we yeah, if we would just let go of the idea that it has to be a certain way, then we probably have a lot more paths to where we want to go. But yeah, I know we get stuck in that a lot for sure.
Mm.
It's all part of the evolution. Is something's got to change and you do something different
Mhm.
than you always had done. And
Sometimes
there's a different outcome.
yeah.
Mhm.
So have you guys, I'm sure you have seen that movie. I don't even remember the name of it now, where there's like guys in the background that are controlling everything, and this girl and guy try to fall in love and they're trying to keep them apart. And I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but it's sometimes I wonder, it seems like in my life, there's been times where once I swallowed the fear or threw it up or whatever I needed to do with it and went ahead and took a step, somehow that one step changed everything. It's like in that movie, if you can find it, if I could think of the name of it, I'll put it in the chat. But in that movie, it showed how like every action created all these other reactions. And they say that that thing about the butterfly wings flapping on this side, changing everything on the other side of the world is just a myth that it's been disproven and all that. But it sure seems like it. It sure seems like one step can suddenly open up a million doors that 5 minutes earlier appeared to be closed. Or you meet one person that can change everything in your world, whether that's through friendship or through romance or a business opportunity, whatever it is, like you meet one person that can just change everything. I mean, I don't know. I have been like your granddaughter, Samantha. I mean, just been so wound up over something. And the minute I can get past that, I can realize that, oh, I just had
It's so
tight socks
simple.
on. And the solution was so easy once I got out of the emotion. And I'm not trying to make everyone Vulcans or anything. Like sometimes I think I'm too, I tell myself that's too Vulcanish. Like, I tell myself, you need to have a
Show
little bit of
emotion.
compassion there. That's right. Show some emotion. But it can just emotion can just really cloud things. It just does.
Yep.
Mm. That's so true.
Egos and emotions.
Energy drain.
Are we all prisoners of our own minds?
We are.
Mm.
Pretty much we are. That's why mindset is so important,
Maybe we're just
because
these brains up in heaven. That's what we are. We're just like these brains on shelves.
Mm. Well, the
Yeah.
meaning, we want to, we all want to put meaning to things, but then what I've realized that we can all experience the same thing, but give it all different meaning.
Right. Mhm.
You could be working on a project and it has so much meaning to you, and then someone else who has, the control to do it decides, no, we're going to end that or change the vision, change the direction, and
Mm.
and then you realize they don't see the same meaning or have the same feeling about the project. So it's interesting. It's like what meaning matters. it's what matters more. The meaning you put on something, the meaning that other people put on something, or
Are not the same.
yeah, and or the amount that it matters, is it we'll give that meaning too. It's I
Wow,
think
interesting.
I like what you were saying earlier though, Dan, about it seems like you just keep moving forward, and that helps.
Yeah, but interesting. Your thought there just made me think. It's interesting. So what meaning really matters if we're all, say like we're, like even here, this, gathering, it all matters to us, but I'm going to assume we all have certain different meanings behind it. I know I have mine because I've grown to love and care about all you guys. And so coming and spending the time and sharing and being in that, but is that the most important meaning? It's like, which meaning is the most important meaning, which there's not going to be a right answer, because no matter how you look at it, everybody's going to see it from a different perspective, in their perspective of where they're at. So that just opens up a whole nother can of worms there, even in just life in general, because we see people getting, and going at it. And I believe it's right to have your feelings, your views, your thoughts, how you look at things. And I believe it's right that if you think this is right, then, somebody else may totally disagree with me. And I might tell them, well, oh, look, I think you're wrong. I disagree with you. I believe I'm right. But goes back to
And you're allowed that.
overall well, it just goes back now to that question of what we're, purpose, and what we're all, I think, what we're all looking for. And then going back to, and for me, I think it goes back to my relationship with God, universe, however you look at that, and how I deal with that relationship first, and then go from there. But it just made me think of that or as in Star Trek terms, what is the prime directive, or the prime meaning out of all the meanings in the world, in the universe?
What meaning matters and what matter has meaning.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah. And do the energies that we hold in our spirit, or within our chakras, how does that all come to play within our the sacred contract that we have, this ancient sacred contract, and is at any point in time or existence, can we renegotiate that contract? Can we add something to it, take something away? I'm not sure. I think I sort of well, it seems to me that the best reason I can come up for anyone existing at all is that we give the creator the ability to live through us,
Mm.
to experience life and love
Vicariously.
and everything through our existence. That's all I got.
Absolutely.
I don't think I don't think he lives vicariously through us, but I think in that perfect love that is out there, I think that's how he
For what?
or spirit or however uses that to express that love that is so pure and genuine and real, but yet in our being on this side of that aspect, we convolute it and mess it up.
Could be.
I love you all. Hope you have a great week. It seems like we're just rambling.
Nice leaf. It's snowing here. I can't believe it.
Well, I think we're all in deep thought now, contemplating everything we talked about.
My single cell is working extremely hard.
Your single cell.
Well, everybody have a great week. And I'm glad
You
you got
too.
your
Thank you.
surgery rescheduled.
Thanks,
Benji.
Catherine. I'll be in
Mhm.
touch as I start to fall apart.
How about not? Let's not fall apart.
Well, it's just life. It ebbs and flows. The tide
Love you
comes,
guys.
tide goes.
Love you
Yeah, we
too.
gotta go. All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Love you all.
Love you
Love you
guys. Have a
too.
Out
great week.
there.
See you later.
You too.